All right. Welcome, everyone, to our After the Episode Game of Thrones episode recap. Corey was supposed to join us. I haven't heard from him yet. We'll get started. He may join us partway through, and we can get caught up on his thoughts.
Sure.
Not really sure what's going on. He hasn't responded to texts of his whereabouts. So let's get started. Let me call up. I've got an episode recap here. I don't know how good it is. We're probably going to miss something we usually do.
We usually do, and we still end up talking for a long time. So
yeah, so this was episode 3 of season 8 called The Long Night.
The Long Night.
Not The Night King, The Long Night.
Yes, you're thinking of the song.
82 minutes long. It was the longest episode of Game of Thrones ever. So yeah, it starts off. Everyone's kind of preparing for the battle. It shows Sam. The very first scene is Sam getting some daggers put in his hand, and someone's like, "Hey, get on out there."
Yeah, move.
It shows the lineup of all the soldiers where everyone is. Shows the Dothraki out front, followed by, and then after that it's the various armies. The Unsullied are kind of in the center, and on the flanks are the people led by Ed and the Hound, and on the other side is I think is it the Vale that's with Brienne,
I
Jaime,
think it is
and
the Vale. Yeah.
So they're on the other side, and a few soldiers inside, not as many. I know Lyanna Mormont is inside with some of the other Mormont soldiers.
Right. Who knows how many they have at this point?
Yeah. And then in the crypts is a few other people.
Yep. Did you mention Brienne? Is
yes.
with Jaime?
Yeah, Brienne's with Jaime and Pod.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, so it shows them kind of getting ready for everything. Tyrion grabs a few bottles of wine on his way into the crypts.
Yep.
It shows Bran getting wheeled out to the weirwood tree in the Godswood with Theon, and Alice Karstark is also there with the Ironborn.
Ironborn, does she have some Karstarks? She must have some Karstarks with her as well.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. There wasn't a ton of people in there. There was maybe a dozen soldiers in there. It's not huge. It's just a little forest section that's sectioned off from the rest of the courtyard. So they're kind of staying there. Oh, Jon and Daenerys fly off into the mountains nearby. To watch from afar and to spring their trap. And then it shows Melisandre. Well, you see a rider coming up, and it's Melisandre.
Don't know who it is. Yeah.
She comes up to Jorah, who's with the Dothraki, and asks him if he can speak their language. He says yes. She says, "Well, tell them to raise their sword." So she walks up to the nearest one, puts her hand on a sword, says a spell, and lights the entire Dothraki hordes. Their curved araks on fire. It's quite the scene too. They show the perspective of it from the walls of Winterfell.
Oh, that's where Arya, Sansa, and Davos are.
Yep, Arya, Sansa, and Davos are up on the wall.
On the wall.
Yep, to watch things from a distance.
Yep.
But yeah, it shows the flames all going through, the music is very triumphant, and it gives you a little bit of hope.
Yeah, you're like, all right, they've got blades of fire. Like, yeah, this is good. This is great.
Not looking too bad so far.
Yeah, like Melisandre's coming in and she's got fire, so it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's a good start to the episode. It is. Definitely.
Yep.
And then, I don't know if this was planned or not, but then all of a sudden the Dothraki charge.
They do. They charge, and you can't. We tried to get a read on if that was the plan all along, which seems silly, or if it was really, they were feeling empowered. Yeah. Shall we say, with their fire. Whatever they're called.
Yeah, fire araks.
They're fire araks.
Curved swords,
yeah. Maybe they're feeling feisty and they just ride right out. And Jorah is with them, as is Ghost.
Yep.
Which instantly I was like, oh my god, I am not going to be okay if anything happens to Ghost. That was my immediate reaction. So off go the Dothraki, and again we wondered if this was planned, because Jorah, you see him kind of stumbling behind a little bit.
Yeah, he seems a little confused as to what's going on.
Yeah, but then he just, rides on. But then things get interesting.
Yeah, so it shows a couple different views of the Dothraki charge. It shows, from behind on the walls, them taking off. It shows from Jon and Daenerys' perspective, which it's just this massive, it looks like stars, in the sky.
Just moving along.
Yep. And, it shows a couple close-ups of it. And the catapults launching over the Dothraki's head into what you assume is the army of the undead. Those look like shooting stars going above. It's a very, very cool scene.
Yeah.
And then it shows at least the front lines of the Dothraki just hitting a brick wall of dead, essentially.
Yep.
And then it pulls the scene back to Jon and Daenerys' perspective as their front hits the front of the dead, which is also very cool. And then it shows it from the castle. Or back, no, I think it pulls back to the perspective of,
the Unsullied.
The Unsullied, yep, and the people that were in the rest of the front lines, yep.
Gendry.
And it shows, the Dothraki, you hear them, doing their screaming a little bit, and slowly but surely all the lights get snuffed out. And you're just like, oh man, this is not good. You had just had a moment of hope there where you're like, okay, I think they've got this, and it's just... they pull the carpet right out from underneath you at that point, and you're like, yep, this is not gonna be good. So all the lights get extinguished, and slowly but surely a couple of the Dothraki are running their way back. A few horses make it back. Jorah comes back and has been wounded a little bit. He seems a little disoriented too.
Disoriented. Ghost is nowhere to be found.
Yep, that's an important thing to remember.
And I didn't really even think about this until today when I was, kind of preparing for the episode. The Dothraki are gone.
Yeah, that's them pretty much wiped out. I don't know if there's any left in Essos.
We'll find out.
There might be some left in Essos. I think there's probably a few stragglers, but you're talking about almost a genocide. I would think.
Yeah. There might be a few left, but we know throughout the episode that we see that some of them are not alive anymore. And that's when Daenerys kind of just gets in Jon's face, and she's like, the dead are already here.
Yeah, we can't wait any longer. We can't
do this anymore. She just watched a horde, of Dothraki just die, just disappear.
Loyal
soldiers, and they're gone. So I didn't realize the impact or how big that moment was until today, and I was like, dang, I did have that thought, wow, they're all gone, but today I was like, wow, that's not something small. That's a pretty big deal that they're all gone. So
so it shows that hold on. Okay. It shows that so Jon and Daenerys take off on the dragons, and then it cuts to the castle walls where Arya's tells Sansa, you have to go into the crypts. You can't be up here anymore. It's too dangerous for you. And Sansa kind of, she's a little reluctant, and rightfully so. She's like, I need to be here for my people. But, Arya's like, nothing you could do here. It's dangerous. So she gives her a dragon glass dagger. Yep. Sansa's like, I don't know how to use this.
What do I do?
And, as a callback to the very first episode, Arya says, stick him with the pointy end. So
right, just like Jon said to her.
Yeah, yes.
Did we forget the Melisandre part?
Which part? Oh yeah,
where Davos.
Yeah, so
open the gate.
Yeah, so when Melisandre comes in after she lights the Dothraki swords on fire, she comes into the castle. And it looks like Davos is going to execute her. But
I thought for sure he was just going to come out swinging.
She's like, you don't have to execute me, Sir Davos. I will not be alive by the end of this.
I'll be
dead before the dawn.
Before the dawn. Mm-hmm.
So he's like, okay, and he kind of lets her go. I think he's like, okay, other people have made sacrifices or let people in to our group who they hated just for the sake of, winning this war. So I think he kind of does the same. At that point.
Right. And so after that, she's walking through, and she makes some eye contact with Arya.
Yep.
Which is important.
Yes, it is. It's very important.
And they have met one time before. So, yes.
Yeah, so then the charge, the dead finally charge, and it comes on our heroes in more of a wave than anything.
Yeah, it's a wave, an overwhelming wave.
Yeah, probably an 8 to 10 foot tall wave of undead smashes into the front lines of our heroes, and things look really bleak right off the bat.
Oh, right off the bat.
I want to say I was not close to hyperventilating, but I definitely immediately just felt tears welling up in my eyes. I was like, oh my god, everyone is gonna die.
Yeah, I had more of a fight or flight response. I was amped up, like every bit of me was amped up. My heart was racing, and like the first wave takes Brienne down like instantly.
Yeah.
And, you see her go down, but Jaime saves her. And, but I was like, this is what we're doing, really. Like, I knew it was going to be bad, but I was really in fight or flight mode. It was very taxing.
Yeah.
And exhausting. Just, because I've said this before, but you fall in love with the characters and you grow with them and you get to know them. And you don't want to see it happen, So
yeah.
it was intense.
So yeah, it looks like everyone's just gonna get run over by the dead. But luckily, Jon and Daenerys, Daenerys went a little rogue here, and the combined forces of Drogon and Rhaegal break up the charge a little bit with some fire attacks. So the onslaught of the undead, the charge, the wave is slowed significantly enough to where the heroes can kind of regain themselves and get a footing again. So
yeah.
I put my phone away, but that has the
so I'm trying to think of who we go to next. Do we go to Jon and Daenerys flying around?
This isn't.
It's not right.
No.
I feel like that's the next part is when Jon and Dany are flying around.
Yeah,
right?
so after the battle starts, Jon and Daenerys, Jon, because they're flying around and doing stuff, Jon kind of flies towards the White Walkers that are hanging back like at the edge of the forest. Is this? Sorry, my computer's. Oh, okay. I gotta.
Oh boy. So let's move along.
I'm gonna really quick delete some stuff off the computer so we can keep recording.
So I'll talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So live show, right?
Yeah.
So so Jon and Dany are, flying along. We're looking for the Night King, and kind of a wall of like snow and wind and ice kind of overtake them and make it really hard to see. So they're flying around, they're yelling for each other, I believe, at one point, and then they collide. So it makes it really hard to see. So we see the undead on the ground kind of just breaking through already. They're getting through. There's calls for fall back, from Tormund, from Brienne, from Jaime. And so it's time for Davos to wave the torches to let Dany know that she needs to light the trenches.
Yeah.
And that wall of snow and ice and wind and everything makes it so Dany cannot see. So luckily Davos realizes that, and he's like, light them with torches, whatever. And this is a moment where they're showing Grey Worm, actually, and he's kind of freaking out. I think this is the first time. I mean, I know you had said maybe he's tired, which he is, I'm sure, but I feel like he was more like freaking out, because like this is really happening.
Yeah.
So they try and they fail at getting the trenches lit. Arya shoots an arrow, on fire at the trenches. The wind just blows them out. The guys that are carrying the torches to try to light the trenches all get taken out by the White Walkers. So it's, nothing is looking right. And then Melisandre comes in.
Yep. So yeah, she walks up to she gets escorted out by not Dothraki, Unsullied, kind of escort unit, and they clear a path up to the thing, and she starts saying a spell on the trench and says it again and says it again. Nothing's happening. Yep. And she starts getting a little bit rattled because one thing we had noticed about Melisandre, her second time upcoming, is she seems a lot more confident than her confidence after Stannis gets killed is very obviously rattled.
Oh yeah.
And even after she resurrects Jon, she's just not quite the Melisandre that we knew from earlier in the show.
The annoying, full of herself, I can do no wrong, I know everything.
Yeah.
Because the Lord of Light tells me Melisandre was definitely gone.
Yeah, she had regained some of her confidence, definitely. But at this point, she sees the dead enclosing and breaking through the Unsullied lines, making it to the trenches before she could light them on fire. But yeah, last second, luckily, she says the whatever final words she needs to, and they lights the trenches, and they light up along the way, and it stops the undead onslaught at that point. Yeah. Luckily, everyone else makes it into the castle to man up on the walls. At this point, it cuts to Bran in the Godswood, and he has a little conversation with Theon about how he's home and where he's supposed to be, because Theon tries to apologize to Bran for what he did to him,
and to the Starks in general.
To the Starks in general, and Bran's like, no, everything you did led you to this point. So now you're home. You know?
You're home. And that's a very touching moment.
Yeah, it is. He's like, okay, I've got to go now. So he, does the warg thing, and he wargs into some ravens. Yep. And he goes to find where the Night King is.
Yep. So we finally see him.
Yeah. So we finally see him up in the clouds, flying around on the dragon Viserion, and he's warging too. Turns out he's warging into individual soldiers on the battlefield. It appears
like that's what we figured out.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, because he has the white eyes too at that point.
Yep.
And he's commanding them individually to walk into the fire and lay down to build bridges in various parts across the trenches, so the undead can continue their onslaught.
Yep. One thing I think we forgot to mention is what happens when Sansa goes down to the crypts.
Yeah.
Is that next? So
yeah.
So Sansa gets down to the crypts. Tyrion, Missandei, Varys, they all kind of look at her and are like, well, you're already here, so this is probably not a good sign. And Tyrion takes the old swig of drink. And then I believe it's in a different scene, but it's, I think, kind of right around this time when Tyrion is kind of pacing, and he's doing the, if we go out there, maybe we could see something that they're missing. And Sansa's like, if you go out there, you'll die, and so he kind of calms down a little bit. And then Tyrion and Sansa have a lighthearted moment, actually, because Tyrion and Sansa were married at one point, and Sansa says, well, you were the best of them, and Tyrion says, what a terrifying thought. And then, Sansa says it never would have worked out anyway, because of the Dragon Queen. And then Missandei in her grumpy pants comes over and is like, yeah, we have all of this, we have the Dragon Queen to thank. If it wasn't for her, we'd all be dead, or something like that. And just ruined the kind of break that I know I needed.
Yeah, the kind of joking that Sansa and Tyrion were doing.
Yeah. So that's what's going on in the crypts at that point.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the events kind of happen next, but Jon and Daenerys, or is it Jon, finally finds. Is this where they find the Night King? Well, the dead start to breach the walls. Right. They pile up at the bottom of the walls and climb up on each other, and the fighting actually inside. Yep. Winterfell finally starts. There's a few things that happen here. We'll probably get them a little bit out of order, but I was not able to find a good scene by scene recap of this episode.
In the 4 times that we've watched it, we didn't write it down.
Yeah, and maybe we'll remember next time, but because we did watch the episode 4 full times.
4 full times. Well, not 4 full times for you because you were falling asleep.
I fell asleep a couple times. Was it the second watch through on Sunday?
No, because the watch through on Monday.
Was it Monday?
Irrelevant, I guess.
Yeah.
but we've watched it a lot of times. How about that?
Yeah. Where was I?
So,
so the dead start to come over the walls. At this point, Arya's finally involved in the battle. I don't like, as I said, we'll probably miss a few things, but it's very much a back and forth battle. Arya finally shows her mettle in battle. We've seen her fight, obviously, but and she's quite good.
She's got her awesome thing.
Yeah,
what do you call
weapon
that?
From it's just like a staff with spear ends.
Right, it's very
with
reminiscent.
One removable like dagger.
Right,
part.
It's very reminiscent of her weapon that she fought the waif with.
Yeah, staff training with the waif.
Yep. Yeah,
but there's one point where she's personally kills like five whites or 6 whites, and Davos is standing in the background just like, holy crap.
Yeah, the look on his face is just fantastic.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. But she does take a pretty severe hit to the head.
Yeah, she kind of gets knocked down, and she slams her head up against one of the castle walls, and splits her head open, and you can tell she's a little bit dazed, a little bit woozy, and she loses her weapon at that point too. So she kind of hightails it out of there and runs off. It's at this point that the Hound has kind of given up.
Yeah, there's fire everywhere.
There's fire everywhere. There's whites everywhere.
He's got PTSD for sure.
Yeah, definitely got PTSD. And Beric Dondarrion is like, hey, we need you. And the Hound's like, no, this is death. You can't. There's nothing we can do here. Yeah. And Beric Dondarrion is like, well, he says something like, well, tell that to her. And it shows Arya kind of struggling and running off. And the second the Hound sees that, he snaps out of it and goes after her to try to help her. So
I love this moment.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite moments of the entire episode because we know that deep down Arya and the Hound care about each other a lot. They've been through awful things together, and this is just showing he, and I had predicted before this to you that, and I mean, we still have 3 episodes, so who knows what's going to happen. But I do think if the Hound goes, I think it will be protecting Arya ultimately, because they just have such a bond that they don't outwardly acknowledge, but I don't think they need to. And this just just shows it again. That they do really care about each other a lot.
Yeah.
Because Arya lost her father at a young age, and we see Arya take on the Hound's qualities in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah,
so
she does.
It's just one of my favorite moments. It was really awesome.
Yep. Gosh. So
Jon and Rhaegal are fighting.
Yeah, there's a little bit of it. There's a I think the first time they encounter the Night King is when he ambushes Daenerys out of the clouds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And tries to burn her up.
Tries to burn her with
the blue dragon fire
or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So he kind of pops out of nowhere and attacks Daenerys and tries to burn her up. Luckily, Drogon's able to avoid it, and then he plunges back into the clouds. And Jon and Daenerys go after him. I feel like he's okay. I think, is it when Viserion starts burning up? I think it's when he's burning up one of the castle walls. Yeah. That Rhaegal and Jon finally catch up with him and start some dragon combat there. They fight and scratch and bite.
Oh God, it's nasty.
Little tussle, and then Drogon out of nowhere comes and finally gets caught up to everything and finally pries the Night King from the back of Viserion, and you see him fall off of Viserion and into the shadows.
It's a good thing too, because he had one of those dumb spears in his hand.
It looked like he was
going to turn
it looked like he was going to throw a spear at somebody. So.
Or Dany. I mean, who knows who he was after? You know,
he was going to kill someone or something.
Yeah, he was after somebody.
Yeah. So he falls to the ground. Eventually, Daenerys goes down to where he was. Jon and Rhaegal
have a crash.
Yeah, Rhaegal crashes down. He's wounded and doesn't rejoin the battle. So Jon hoofs it on foot over to where that is. There's a point too where Jorah notices Drogon and Daenerys might be in trouble, so he heads off. From the fighting in the keep to go after them. Is it at this point the Lyanna Mormont scene somewhere in here?
Yeah, it is somewhere in here.
Yeah, there's a point where a giant crashes through the castle gates. Pushes Lyanna Mormont out of the way, kills a bunch of people.
Smacks her out of the way.
She gets up, charges at him with one of her a dragon glass axe, and he picks her up and like crushes her ribs and brings her up to his face. She stabs him in the eye and kills him and dies right along with him. So
yeah.
Rip. Oh, we didn't talk about Ed.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah.
Because Ed's the first character to go. That's outside the walls.
Yeah.
He saves Sam because Sam, not a fighter. I don't know what he was doing out there, but
no idea.
Not a fighter.
Yep.
So Ed saves him and gets stabbed shortly after he saves Sam and goes down.
Yep.
So also rip Dolores Ed.
Dolores Ed. Yeah. So Ed goes down. Then we see Lyanna Mormont go down. Mixed in all of this too, we see Jaime, Bran, Pod, Tormund, Gendry, Grey Worm doing their thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think there's much of note on those parts other than we see a lot of Jaime and Bran saving each other.
Yeah.
Which I think is important to maybe where the story's headed, because I have some thoughts on this show. Foreshadows a lot, so I read into a lot of things, maybe too much, but so not a ton to report. You know, they're doing their fighting. It's you know, we've seen them do it before, so it's not, you know, not much different. Yeah.
All right. What happens next? Where were we?
So I think
the Night King on the ground.
Yep, the Night King's on the ground.
And finally, the moment I've been waiting for. I said this should have happened when they were trapped at the lake thing.
At the lake.
When the Night King kills Viserion, I thought this would happen. Daenerys finally gets a chance to try and cook the Night King.
Yeah.
So she, you know, he's standing there looking up at her with his dumb
smug face.
Dumb smug face is absolutely right. And Daenerys gives him a Dracarys, and you know, Drogon lights him up. Big fireball.
Big fireball.
Continuous fireball too. And Jon's running to catch up at this point, so he's a little bit behind it to be able to tell what's going on. As the flames die down, it's the Night King just standing there with a smile on his face, looking smug, like
dumb,
couldn't hurt
face.
Me. He picks up his spear off the ground and throws it, so he chases off Daenerys and Drogon. And
luckily, I was very happy to see that Dany was like, oh crap, and got Drogon out of there, because it could have been bad if one of those spears had gotten her or them. Or
So Jon at this point sees that and runs to catch up to the Night King to try to fight him. And the Night King notices Jon and turns around.
Of course.
And as Jon's on his way, raises all the dead that had died in the battle to that point. So,
so
there's not hundreds, but probably tens of whites in between Jon and the Night King. So he starts fighting again. The Night King walks off towards Winterfell.
Yep. We see Ed and Lyanna both become whites.
Yep. And also in the crypts. The crypts is where some undead are raised too.
And I did research it because we were like, that has to be Maester Luwin.
It looks like Maester
Luwin. And
Luwin.
it was, a lot of people online are saying like, hello, is anybody not talking? Like, how are people not talking about Maester Luwin being one of the dead that comes out of the crypts?
The first white that comes out of the crypts that breaks through the wall I'm pretty sure it's Maester Luwin.
It has to be. It has to be.
Yeah, not too long dead, I wouldn't think. But yeah, the whites start coming around and in the crypts and chasing everyone. Luckily, all of our heroes kind of find hiding spots.
Yeah,
Sansa and Tyrion find them, and Varys and Sam and little Sam and Gilly
and Missandei.
Yeah,
party pooper Missandei. And I'm trying to think of...
Beerless is like, but the crypts were safe. Yeah, that was definitely an oversight. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a moment. But
yeah. So I guess, I mean, this is where we.
So John is at that point he's fighting, or fighting the whites.
Yep.
He's about to get overwhelmed, and Daenerys swoops back in after the Night King is gone and burns up the whites that were surrounding Jon.
Yes.
She lands with Drogon, tells him to go, go get caught up to the Night King. And at this point, one of her mistakes is staying on the ground, and
we're like, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
what are you doing?"
All the Dothraki that were like behind the battle are running to catch up to the battle, and start climbing on Drogon.
Yep, the white Dothraki, not the Dothraki.
Yeah. The
undead.
The recently raised Dothraki.
Right.
And starts stabbing Drogon. He kind of freaks out. Tries to fly away, but too late. And as he's shaking off the undead, shakes off Daenerys, and she falls to the ground.
Yep.
Surrounded by dead. Luckily, Jorah had noticed her up in the sky and was finally there to help her. And he squares off. Daenerys grabs the sword too.
Yep. She grabs some dragon glass
to try to help him.
Yep.
Makes a few kills herself.
She does pretty well for herself. I liked that part.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess so Jon runs off.
Yeah. I think this is where it starts, where the music starts. We listened a lot to the Night King song that they recently released.
It's called The Night King.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fantastic song. It's just so fantastic.
Good.
So we couldn't remember where it started when we first started listening to the song, but it starts in the crypts with Tyrion and Sansa
having a moment. Again, another one of my favorite parts, which tells me how much I just really like the character interaction.
Sansa pulls out her dagger, and I don't know what you thought, but I thought they had like a suicide pact, and they were
I did think that, because I looked at you and I said, "What are they gonna do here? What are they gonna do?" And you were just like, "Don't do what I think. Like, don't do what you think you're gonna do."
Yeah.
Because the way they kind of pulled the spears out, it looked like, well, this is over, and I think I was thinking back to, I don't know if it was season 1, it probably was, when Cersei is ready to drink the poison, with Tommen, when they think that Battle of Blackwater, is that what it was?
Yeah, that Stannis was sacking the castle.
Yeah, when they think Battle of Blackwater is going awry for them, she's ready to drink the poison and give it to Tommen as well. So my thoughts kind of went back to that, okay, Sansa and Tyrion had some kind of agreement here that they were going to end it together if things went bad. But that doesn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
I'm not sure if they were going out to plan on fighting, but
Tyrion
kind of kisses her hand, and then he launches himself around the corner.
But the acting, again, I go back to the acting. The acting in this scene was superb.
Yeah.
They did not say a word to each other. They did not need to say a word to each other. The looks on their faces, and especially Tyrion, the expressions on his face, you knew exactly what he was saying and thinking without saying and thinking anything. Mm-hmm. And it was remarkable.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic scene.
Yeah. So at that point, I think it cuts to Jon as he's trying to make his way towards the God's Wood. He knows that's where the Night King is. It shows Sam getting overwhelmed again by the dead, and Jon looking at him and just continuing on.
Yeah, he's like, I can't stop and save Sam right now.
Just kept going, and shows a lot of the heroes backed up against the wall and backed up into corners, fighting off undead. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about our thoughts probably after we do the recap, but and then it cuts to the Godswood. It's Theon making his last stand, protecting.
Arya.
What's that?
We forgot Arya walking around in the halls of Winterfell.
Well, we can talk about that now, because I think we skipped over that.
So that, because it's important.
It's very important. So it shows Arya after she gets beat up a little bit. She makes her way into the Winterfell library. And is sneaking around. There's a bunch of undead that are like shuffling around, and she's
just trying to get a moment.
Yeah, she's trying to get herself to a safe spot where she can gather herself and recuperate. It shows her sneaking around. She finally gets away. There's an important part where she's under a table and some blood drips.
Yeah.
And one of the whites hears the blood dripping. but no one ever hears her footsteps when she's moving around because she's so silent. So
yeah, that's important.
It's very important. So she tosses a book at one point and attracts all the whites to one corner, and she makes her escape, but then they come busting through another door, and she takes off running. Then it cuts to the Hound and Beric Dondarrion looking for Arya inside Winterfell. She eventually gets pushed through a door right in front of Beric Dondarrion, being attacked by a white, and he throws his flaming sword and kills it. Helps her up, and they take off running. Beric gets stabbed a bunch when they're making their escape. She saves him a couple times too when they're escaping. The Hounds, kill some whites, and then they make it into the hall in the keep. They board up the door, and Beric Dondarrion says his final indistinguishable words.
Doesn't say anything.
He kind of just dies there.
Yep, with Arya with him.
Yep, with Arya with him, and the Hound barring the door, and you see a robed figure behind.
Yes.
And it turns out to be...
I thought was Baelish, FYI.
Yeah, it turns out to be Melisandre.
Yep.
Who has some words for Arya.
Yep. So, Arya basically says, "I know you," and Melisandre says, "I know you too," and she said, Arya says, "You said we'd meet again," and she says, "You said I'd also close many eyes. You were right about that too." And Melisandre says, "Yes, brown eyes, green eyes, and blue eyes." And as soon as she said that, I was like, "Oh my God, no way!"
Yeah.
And it doesn't take Arya very long to figure out
what she means,
and Arya takes off.
Yeah. See her running out of the castle. The Hound's like, "What the heck is happening?"
What's going on?
But yeah, I think he knows she's got an idea.
Yeah.
So he lets her go.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then cut to Theon in the Godswood. I think we've got everything.
Yeah.
I don't think we're missing anything.
I think
So yeah, Theon and the Godswood, his little group is getting overwhelmed. They run out of flaming arrows, and he's the last one standing. So he picks up a dragon glass tipped spear, kills a bunch of whites.
Yep. Triumphantly.
Triumphantly gets a moment's peace with Bran. As the whites line up the corner, and the White Walkers and the Night King make their way into the Godswood from the main courtyard entrance.
Yep.
And Bran stops warring at that point. He looks at Theon, says, "Theon, you're a good man."
You're a good man.
And thanks him for what he did. At that point, Theon, I think, saw the writing on the wall. Just made a final triumphant charge at the Night King.
Charges at the Night King.
To try to buy Bran even a little bit more time. The Night King easily dispatches of Theon, breaks his spear and stabs him, runs him through with the broken spear.
Yep.
I kept hoping Theon would get up and stab the Night King at that point, but
I was really hoping. I was like, "Come on, Theon, get one last boost of."
But that
something.
Was very, very well done, very touching death. Theon, he completes his redemption arc at that point.
He does.
Finally redeems himself and is forgiven by Bran. So that was a very, very nice moment.
Yeah, and again, this is where I will say the acting was phenomenal. I'll be honest, I was not the biggest Theon fan in the show at all.
Yeah. Even after he kind of redeemed himself.
Yeah, his character was always just kind of like. I think his character was exactly what it needed to be. Like, I just didn't like Theon. It's not that I didn't like the acting behind him. It was just he was kind of squirrely, and he was kind of whiny, and he was kind of like after he'd fight, he'd kind of like slug around a little bit. He wasn't the warrior like Jon was, or Ned, or even Robb. Right. Like he was kind of this squirrely little fighter guy that was just trying. But in that scene, anything I ever felt badly about Theon completely disappeared, because I feel like you just saw like this brave Stark. Like he was essentially a Stark, I felt like, and it was an awesome moment.
Yeah.
I was really sad to see him go, but it was it was a great moment. So
Yeah,
well done, Alfie Allen. Well
done. So at that point, it shows Jon kind of starting to get close to the Godswood. And in comes crashing down the Viserion to guard the entrance to the Godswood. He tries to cook Jon on several occasions, but Jon is luckily able to avoid the flames before they get here. And he kind of gets pinned down. And is not able to reach the Godswood. So the Night King, again, the music, the Night King song playing through this entire scene is
it's just unreal,
beautiful.
It's unreal.
It gives me chills just thinking about
Seriously.
But yeah, the Night King slowly walks up to Bran. They kind of look at each other, and you can tell there's some sort of communication going on.
And I think there's a lot of speculation about what exactly was happening between the Night King and Bran.
And it might have even been the Night King being like, look what I've done, you're finished.
Like trying to intimidate him just one last time. Yeah. Like, fear me.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Then it cuts to Jon. But this time it's a little different what he does. He very really weird. Very strangely, but there might be a reason for this, which we'll get into. Very strangely, kind of stands up and shouts at Viserion instead of hide him. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people think he says go. Did I not tell you this?
No, you didn't tell me this.
I thought I did.
No,
I think I did.
We don't see each other.
We'll get there. So it cuts back. The Night King is slowly starting to pull out his sword, and then it cuts to one of the White Walkers with their hair moving a little bit.
Yeah, their hair getting
looking
blown
over his right shoulder, and then it cuts to the Night King again, and Arya comes flying out of nowhere.
Yes, and screaming,
trying to stab him. So the Night King turns around, grabs her by her throat and her stabbing wrist, which is her left hand. You think, it's the triumphant second. Oh, Arya's got him. It doesn't. The Night King catches her, but she drops the dagger, catches it in her right hand, and stabs him in the chest and his sternum or heart or wherever.
Yep.
And shatters the Night King, shatters all the White Walkers. All the Whites start dropping dead all over the castle. Jorah is kind of making his last stand at this point. Jorah and Daenerys outside the walls, getting stabbed and stuff. After all the White Walkers go down and Whites go down, he falls. Viserion raises up, look like he's ready to burn or bite Jon, and then crumbles to the ground. Jorah at this point keels over and mouths "I love you" to Daenerys before
that was brutal.
He passes into the great beyond. And then the last scene is there's a part where Arya and Bran are looking at each other.
Yep, just kind of having a moment, like
having a moment.
Over here.
Yeah, it's over here. And then the Hound and Melisandre come out of the Great Hall in Winterfell, and Melisandre walks out the doors of the castle, pulls off her ruby, walks a little further, and
turns into the old woman.
Turns into dust and keels over and dies.
Yep, and she's done.
That's the end of her too. Because Davos again he comes out of nowhere. I don't know where he was hiding.
Yeah, he looked like he had been fighting.
He did a little bit of fighting, but I can't imagine it was very much because he repeatedly says how he's not a fighter.
Yeah.
So he probably had been doing some hiding, but he was going to take care of her, but she ends up dying.
Yeah, because he has his hand on his sword. Like he's ready to take her out.
Yeah. So our thoughts. I mean, there was a lot of complaints about this episode. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it didn't happen how I thought it would, but I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead. You can start.
Well, I want to start with a really angry article that I read just a few hours ago. So this person is a huge Game of Thrones fan, and his reaction was, I absolutely hated this. I don't want to watch the show anymore. It's wasted my time. And basically his point in the whole thing was that all of this that happened could have easily been predicted. And with the hundreds of thousands of theories that people have come up with. Couldn't they have done this? Couldn't they have done that? Couldn't they have done the other thing? And then also his point was like, the Dothraki died for nothing. Jorah died for nothing. Like, it was all too simple.
Yeah. I've read a lot of complaints.
Yeah,
and I'm ready
it was too simple
to defend
yeah
Game of Thrones from most of them. There's a few that I'm like, okay, that's a fair criticism.
And like, I can see the so for me, I can see the criticism of it was like the simplicity. But to be fair, there are still 3 episodes. Yeah. And we don't know. 3 long episodes. So, you know, I get like this whole build up of like the White Walkers, the dead, it's bad, it's terrible, and then it's kind of over with this hour and 22-minute episode. So I get that. But at the same time, we don't know what we're in for in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And to say like it just ended so simply, like we don't know that. And
I mean, I never got the because a lot of people are like, oh, it was too easy, like it just happened in one night. But if you put yourself in what these characters went through, would any of them say, yeah, that was easy?
Oh yeah, that was an easy battle.
That was a breeze, like no problem. Like no one would, absolutely no one would say that.
Right.
It was like it was hell. You know,
right,
it was literal hell. There's dead bodies everywhere.
Yep.
There's undead creatures. Everything's on fire.
Right. It's
literal hell. It's dark. Yeah.
Right. And people complain a lot about that it was too dark.
Yes, that's
the point.
Well, I mean, I think it's a valid criticism because a lot of people said they watched it on cable, and that's when it wasn't a good enough quality picture. We streamed it on HBO Now, and it was perfect. Like,
yeah, it was fine.
But some people they couldn't see what was going on at all, which that
stinks.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it not an easy thing. I know a lot of people complained about the way the Night King went down. They didn't like the Arya did it. Because a lot of it was okay. The Night King had nothing to do with Arya at all through the whole show. It should have been Jon to do it. To me, that would have been cheesy.
Right. To me, that's the simple. Like, that it's Jon.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's the obvious choice, that it's Jon.
Yeah, that would have been cheesy. But at the same time, the Night King, I don't think ever would have gone or would have fought Jon one-on-one. I don't think there's any possible way that happens. Right. He witnessed Jon kill one of his White Walkers.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Jon killed the second one when they went north of the wall. Like, he's not going to fight Jon because of the possibility of him getting killed. It's the same way with the rest of the White Walkers. Like, they didn't do any fighting because they didn't think they needed to.
Right.
You know, they stayed in the background. They let their undead army do all the work for them. They went in when they thought it was finally safe, when everyone was either dead or pinned down or occupied enough that they couldn't help. Bran. They went in when they thought it was safe.
Right.
I think a one-on-one battle between the Night King is unrealistic. I think it would have been cheesy.
Yeah, like and we don't even know that the Night King can fight. I mean, like, we don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, he killed Theon, but you know.
Right, but like that.
That was just like a dodge and he broke the spear and ran him through. Like, that was kind of super strength type of thing. Like, yeah, there's no way the Night King takes that risk. He's just not like that. He's not going to put himself out there and I feel like a lot of the complaints were because it didn't go the way people wanted it to.
Yeah. That's really what I'm reading into as well. I think for me, you know, I love this show and I trust this show and I trust what this show is, despite what they've done to us in the past. You know, I trust this show to tell me a good story, and that's where they took the story. And if you don't like it, okay, you're entitled to your opinion, and I get that, but I don't agree.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole Arya thing, like, literally her entire story arc is her, or at least a significant part of her story is her training to be an assassin.
Right, she's an assassin.
That's what she does. That's her thing, is killing people.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's out of the what she I know she had nothing to do with the Night King at all throughout throughout the thing. But what's she gonna? Is she gonna hide in the crypts? Of course not. She's gonna
Right.
help her family. Like
Right.
that's her
That's
thing.
her thing.
She's gonna help her family. She's gonna protect Winterfell. She's gonna protect Jon, Sansa, Bran especially.
Bran
Because he's kind of helpless.
Wheelchair. Yeah, like
she's gonna protect him.
She's gonna do what she can because she's kick-ass.
Yeah,
and she knows it.
A lot, and I don't understand where some of people don't pay attention. Like, is a lot of it. Like,
yeah.
They're like, how could she be running by all these White Walkers
and they not notice
her? I'm like, because they're like, okay, the blood dripping, like
right.
The White noticed that,
right?
But at the same time, like that was in a quiet library. The Godswood is not that far from the courtyard where Viserion was trying to cook Jon, and where battle was still raging. So there was a lot of noise, even though the music was playing and there was no like sound in the scene. There was a lot of noise going on.
Right, and she was silent enough in the library that they didn't hear anything until her blood dripped.
Right, that was the only thing they heard.
All of her footsteps were silent, and that is part of her training.
Yeah.
That's part of what she is. That's who she is.
Yeah.
She is an assassin.
Yeah.
She's a murderer.
Yeah, so I don't know. People like, because I talked about Will about complaining because of the complaining with the Breath of the Wild VR thing. Like,
oh my god.
Just I don't know what people were expecting.
Yeah, I always try to like put myself in their shoes, and I get it. But like the fact that people are coming up with thousands of crazy theories, it's not the show's job to cater to that.
Yeah.
Like think about all the complaining that got done when Davos said to Gendry, "Oh, I thought you were still rowing." And people were like, you can't do that. And it's like, well,
it's just a joke.
It's just a joke. Like, and I get it, because if I hadn't liked this episode, I would have been mad. I'd be furious, because I get it. Like, my biggest fear is in these next 3 episodes, God help us, I don't know what we're in for, because Cersei terrifies me. Like, I would hate it if I hadn't liked this episode, because I have invested so much of my time and, like, my life into the show, which is... it has a deeper meaning for us because we watch it together, and it's the only thing we get to do together.
One of the few things
we do together. So I get that when people didn't like it, I get that, but like it wasn't the show's job to cater to the thousands of theories. It couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I think Arya had every right to kill the Night King and have it end that way.
Yeah. Well, again,
and people are saying, well, it was so predictable. Well, it really wasn't, because everyone thought Jon was going to do it.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't. Like, I knew what Arya was going to do when she talked to Melisandre.
Yeah. No, and my whole thought too.
But then it happened, and I was like, oh my god. Like,
yeah. No, I'm after, because we said that. I think you said it. Yeah. You're like, oh my god, Arya's going to kill the Night King, and I'm like, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And then I was just waiting for it to happen. I'm like, where's Arya? Where's Arya?
Right.
Like,
but even for me, when the Night King was like getting ready, pulling the sword out or whatever, when she came out of nowhere, I was like, oh my god, I had forgotten.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it was going to happen, but just the way it was done, it was just, it was so good.
I've said it before, I've talked to you about it, but that image of her leaping behind the Night King will forever be seared into my being.
Absolutely.
Like, I get teared up when I watch it still. Like, I've watched it probably 100 times, and every time I'm like, oh my god, I get emotional.
With the music, and I wanna talk about the music for a second. Can I do that?
Yeah, of course.
This music in this episode, especially the last song, The Night King, if you haven't listened to The Night King just as a standalone without the show, like, just listen to the song. It's almost 9 minutes long. It is fantastic. Ramin Djawadi is a genius. He's brilliant. It's the music, because the more I listen to it, the more it has tones of help me, season 7.
Oh, Light of the Seven?
Light of the Seven.
Yeah.
It has similar music to that, but it twists it to make it the Night King. Season 6, I'm sorry. So it kind of is tying together some things that it's just so well done. And about 7 minutes and 25 seconds or so into the song is when things amp up. And like I was telling Dan, I just like can feel that music in like my soul.
Yeah.
Like it's that good. I haven't felt that with music since like Lord of the Rings. You know, and like I love the other Game of Thrones music, but this song is just at a different level, and I hope that he wins some awards. He better win some awards for it, because it's
absolutely,
it's just superb.
So I mean, another one of the complaints that I think people were disappointed that the build up to the Night King, that the Night King wasn't the final conflict.
Yes, a lot of people didn't
like
that.
I kind of get that, but at the same time I don't, because for me the Night King was never that interesting of a bad guy. Yeah. For me it was more the actual people.
And
Beerless says, I don't think anyone else should have killed the Night King, but I'm not into how the scene was composed. There are more interesting things they could have done with Arya's approach, but they wanted everyone to bathe in desperation. I think they nailed that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was... Yeah. I'll never forget how I felt when that all happened.
Me neither. Yeah.
But yeah, no, for me, the Night King was never a super interesting bad guy. A lot of people didn't know what his motivation was. But it was very simple. His motivation was to wipe out life.
Right, wipe out life.
Not just humans, but the children of the forest too. And that was his only motivation. That was his only goal. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's not as interesting as a character like Cersei, who, you know, she was bad at the beginning, but she's kind of turned into a monster at this point.
And I think
much more interesting. And the way the characters, you know, the characters that live too is another source of contention for people. How many characters?
Yeah, the main a lot of people. Lived. I think people wanted to see a main character go down.
Yeah.
I mean, Jorah is probably as close as they got.
Jorah,
Theon as well. What was my point that I was going to make? Something about, I can't remember. Continue. It'll come back to me.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think
Cersei.
The Night King was a little too one-dimensional, I think, to be the bad guy. Right. And the thing I liked about Game of Thrones was the conflict between people, and it's not Lord of the Rings, you know. It's George R. R. Martin never intended it to be Lord of the Rings. The Night King is not even, at least at this point, in the books. He's not a character in the books, so it's a show creation to kind of put a face with this threat. So.
Right. Yeah, so what my point was is I would say, having watched it through at least 5 full times.
Yeah.
What percentage of those shows would you say that the biggest threat to the people at that moment was the Night King? It's very small in comparison to how much Cersei and the Lannisters were a threat to the people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we don't even, you know, we see the White Walkers at the start of the show. We get bits and pieces of them throughout the seasons, but the whole time it's Cersei. Dany's coming to get, you know, to get the throne back from Cersei, and that's, you know, that's really what it is. So I totally get what people are saying, that like it was like boom, done, Night King's gone, and that's kind of crazy but when you think about it, the building up to the Night King has been a small part of a bigger picture of what is Cersei going to do.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
For me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so another one of the complaints is that a lot of the main characters survived. I personally don't have a problem with that. I'm actually glad they survived. Because I think they need to be there for the I don't have a problem with that. With her finding out about the Night King. She's protecting her family. That's fine. But anyway, the the characters that are left, I think it's going to make a more interesting plot with how's Tyrion going to deal with Cersei, how's Jaime going to deal with Cersei,
and I think
what's Brienne going to do, because she's loyal to Sansa but also loyal to Jaime. Like that's what's going to be interesting.
And I mean, we have 3 full episodes, and no one is saying that like none of the main characters are going to die.
Yeah.
That is a very real possibility.
Yeah.
We know how Cersei feels about Jaime, about Tyrion. We know Bran has been sent out to find those 2. We know how Cersei feels about Arya. We know how Cersei feels about Dany and Sansa. Like, there is still a lot of bad here. And I am very nervous.
What do we think Bran was doing during the last battle? There's a lot of theories out there.
There's a lot of theories, and I tend to lean towards Bran is up to no good.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because we know Bran is not actually Bran. We know he's the three-eyed raven. But again, I go back to my foreshadowing. And when Benjen saves Bran and Mira, the way Benjen looks at Bran when he's like, I leave you here, and that's it. I don't like... Benjen is like a solemn, serious character, so maybe I'm reading into it too much. He gives him daggers. But he gives him such a look like you're going to mess this up, or you're going to do something bad, or, or don't let this go awry, something like that. So we know Bran isn't really Bran, and I just think... I think he's up to no good, or I feel like he's got something going that we are... Maybe that's what's going to kind of surprise us out of nowhere, is that maybe Bran is up to something that's going to change everything.
Yeah.
Because, again, we still have 3 long episodes left.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't like seal it up and put a stamp on it yet.
Yeah, and
it's not over.
I think some of the things that happened in this episode will probably be explained in the next one.
Yeah.
Some of the questions people have, like... one of the things I've been reading is that Bran was kind of guiding Arya and Jon and the various players to help them to get them to where they needed to be. Mm-hmm. So that could have been it. You don't know. Mm-hmm. Some people think the connection between the Night King and Bran isn't completely severed, and that the Night King is going to come back in some capacity, or that even Bran is the Lord of Light. Like, I've read that.
I have read.
Like, who knows?
Yeah, some people think, like, just like the Night King was for the bad undead, if you will, that Bran is the Lord of Light, and he's for the good undead. Mm-hmm. So, like, he's the reason that Beric was, alive, and that Jon is alive. And that their life source is, like, tied to him somehow. Yeah. I've read that as well, so.
Yeah, The thing I think that's interesting, and I'm kind of hoping for at this point, in a way, is Cersei gets dealt with probably the next episode. The penultimate episode is always the episode before the last episode.
Sure.
So I think that one is going to be Jon and Daenerys actually squaring off against each other. I think when you're talking about, because it's Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, I think the Song of Ice and Fire is going to be about Jon and Daenerys' ultimate conflict.
Yeah.
I think Jon is going to see Daenerys as potentially, especially she lost Jorah. Tyrion might not be as loyal to her if he thinks he might have a chance to get back with Sansa, maybe. I think she's gonna go full on Mad Queen, and I think Jon, in order to kind of save the realm, they're gonna have a conflict, and that's gonna be the final conflict. But I mean, that's just a thought.
Yeah. And one more thing that I want to add, because I can barely read that because I don't have my glasses, but beardless. I think to the point of how, the Night King was the ultimate threat. I think one thing to remember too is this show works to surprise us, and I think I'm looking at it as surprise. The Night King might not have been the biggest threat here.
Yeah.
So that's why I say don't seal it and stamp it and send it off. There's 3 more episodes to see, we don't know. We just don't know. So I totally get that it was this is the biggest threat. This is the biggest threat. But now we're ugh, maybe we were wrong about that.
Yeah. I think one of the things people are surprised about is yeah, Cersei was right to hang back and let those two sides beat each other up and then try to take out the winner.
And I said to you, do you think Jaime's going to regret his decision to come fight for the living versus staying with Cersei? Because who's on the winning side now?
Yeah.
Well, it's Cersei from the looks of things.
Cersei is on the winning side.
So is Jaime going to regret it? Is he going to beg to go back? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or I feel like he's gonna be so torn because he's made this alliance and he's been through something with these people, with Jon and, and Bran and Pod and all of them. Like, he's been through something major with them. So how could he just turn his back on them again? Maybe he could. Maybe we're going to see Jerk Jamie come back. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's all my thoughts. I don't know what side Dorne is going to be on, or if they're even going to be on a side. Like, I would assume they're still technically loyal to Daenerys, but
what's going on in Dorne? They're all the leaders are dead.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very confused about.
That's an interesting thought.
I'm very confused about Dorne.
What's Dorne?
Because I don't know if someone else is going to take. I don't know if they're in the books or in the show. There's any more Martells that could step up and take the. Oh, it's under Lannister occupation now. Okay.
So they're.
Yeah, probably not.
So are Dorne forces going to come?
Yeah, I don't know.
And help Cersei? Will they have to?
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. Is there going to be anyone left to fight Cersei? And her
Golden Company.
Golden Company. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. So that's why, like, just wait. Like, give them a chance.
See how it all shakes out.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, I ultimately did really like the episode.
The Lannister army did get roasted too. Yeah.
Yep, a lot of it anyway.
Yeah, right. So it's mainly the Golden Company that she's got ready, and Euron. God help.
The creep Euron.
God, he's such a creep.
So that'll do it for our Game of Thrones recap. We'll have one obviously after next week's podcast episode.
Yeah.
We'll see you later.